Hi, I'm Tony Daniels, and if you are clicking on this video, it's probably because you have read my book, Back to Joy, An Intimate Journey with Jesus into Emotional Health and Maturity, and you're considering using it as a small group tool. So in this video, I would like to give you some ground rules for small group facilitation. I've been leading small groups and training small group leaders for 30 years now. And really, the last 2 years, I've been exposed to the methods that I'm going to teach you today, and they're by far the most effective tools I have ever used for small group facilitation. So for what that's worth, with this book in particular, you're dealing with issues of the heart, both spiritual intimacy and emotional intimacy, and that needs a high level of safety for a group of people to be able to process these things. So with that in mind, there's really two ground rules or two tools that I want to teach you for how to facilitate well. And then I'm going to give you a flow for what your group could look like, each meeting, what your group meeting could look like. So the first thing I want to share with you is the concept of rounds, doing a small group in rounds. And what that is basically if you give about 2 minutes apiece to each person in the group. And you ask them a question. And then you go around in the circle, giving them that opportunity to answer the question. So that is just a very effective way to lead a small group because everyone gets a chance to participate and you're limiting people so no one's dominating the conversation. And it really provides some safety as well in the group. So we'll talk a little bit more about what those rounds will look like when we get to the flow of the group. But the second ground rule is active listening, that people actively listen to each other. And what that looks like is basically we listen without wanting to fix someone, without needing to help them, without needing to get rid of their emotion or change what they're feeling, without judging them. So really, you're just listening. And no one has to be afraid that you're going to give me advice when I don't want advice or try to fix me when I don't need fixing. So it creates a huge level of safety in the group when I know no one's going to do that to me if I share honestly and openly. So that being said, though, as a facilitator, what do you do if someone in the group shares a tremendous need? And I'm going to give you a way to deal with that. That hopefully maintains the safety of the group and helps the person feel honored. So what we do, let's say someone shares with you a problem or an emotion that's very heavy that they're struggling with, and you can feel how heavy that is for everyone in the room. So what I would do is I would look at that person, I would say, you know, I can hear that this is a really big struggle for you right now. What would you like from our group? So that's the question. What do they need? Okay, so instead of just giving them advice or trying to say things like trust in Jesus or things that I think might help them, I'm going to ask them what they need. Okay, and then I'm going to give them a multiple choice question. So do they want a listening ear? Do they just want us to hear them and cry with them? Okay, or hear them and celebrate with them if they're sharing something great. But if it's heavy, do you just want us to listen? Because we can do that. Or would you like us to pray for you? Because maybe the person really would like some prayer. Or maybe they would like advice. So we do ask, would you like some advice on that? Because some of us have been through that before. And maybe we have some resources that we can give you or, different ways of approaching the problem. So do you want advice? And then lastly, do you need skills or some type of training or coaching that we could help you with? So those are the 4 options I give anyone in my group when they present a need that's heavy. And we let them tell us what they need from us. So we don't give unwanted advice, we don't give unwanted help, but when they say they need help, then we let people do that. So that keeps the group safe enough so that people know they're not going to get unwanted help with good intentions, because that's actually harmful. Yeah, and it destroys the trust in the group. So with that being the ground rules, so we go in rounds and we actively listen and we offer multiple choice to those who are in deep need so that we can help best meet their needs. With that in mind, how do the rounds function? What's the flow of this type of study? And so I'm just going to lay out for you the questions that I would use if I were leading a small group through this book, Back to Joy. It's divided up into chapters and sections, so depending on how many times you meet, you will focus on either chapters or sections. And we always start, the first round is always, how are you feeling today? We call it a check-in. So it really builds the circle, helps people arrive to the group with whatever it is they're bringing with them from the day or from the week. And we give them 2 minutes each. So in 2 minutes or less, explain, just share with us how you're feeling. And it seems simple, but sometimes it's very difficult. And Luke 10 communities online have a lot of resources for how to check in and how you can help people share their emotions and things like that. So feel free to go to those resources. But in this video, I'm just going to demonstrate what that is. So it would be, I'm feeling really excited today. I'm launching a book in a week, and I just can't wait for that to happen. So really, I'm just excited today. So that would be my check-in today, and then the next person could go. And we go all the way around the room. If you don't want to go, you don't have to share. You can pass. But at least we know whose turn it is, and the group can keep moving. After the check-in, and remember, no fixing people, no judging, no making emotions going away, no advice giving. That's the time to really listen and be with each other. Weep with each other and laugh with each other, and offer help through those multiple choice questions if needed. So then you're going to move into, after forming the circle through the check-in, you're going to move into a time of questions regarding the book. So there's 3 rounds that will happen during this, this portion of the group time. And the 3 questions you'll ask are, the first question will be, which story did you like the most? These are going to be the same every single time you meet, based on the chapters or the section that you're dealing with. So out of that chapter or out of that section, what was your favorite story? Which one did you like the most? And you just go around 2 minutes and you share which story you liked and why. Then next round will be, out of that chapter, that story, that chapter, or that section, depending on how they answered the question, what part did they think was the most important part? So it's a little different than the first part. The first part's what did they like? The second question is, what do you think was the most important thing that happened in that story, in that chapter, or in that section, depending on how they've answered the question. You go 2 minutes, every person, all the way around the circle. And then the third question regarding the book will be, where do you see yourself in that story, that chapter, or that section? What part is about you? Okay, so that's where it becomes their life, and they get to share where they are. And I do the questions in this way. This is actually based off godly play, facilitation, if you're into godly play. These are the magic questions that we use for all of the sacred stories of the Bible. And it just gives us an opportunity to enter into the story that we're working with, but then to let the Holy Spirit apply it to our own lives and give us some time to think about that. How does that apply to me? So after those 3 rounds, 2 minutes apiece, each person or less, then we're going to move into a time of appreciation and listening. So I generally give about 25 minutes for this segment of the group time. The whole thing will last about 2 hours. I would schedule 2 hours for it. But this particular part's about 25 minutes. And in that, what you're going to do is very similar to the reflection questions in the book. I've trained you through those reflection questions on how to go to appreciation, how to relive a memory, and then how to sense Jesus in that memory. So you're going to follow that format that you have right there in your book. You're going to invite people to close their eyes, quiet their heart, find an appreciation memory, relive it, think about their emotions and their physical body sensations, all quietly in silence. That'll take about 2 minutes of silence for you to do that. Then you're going to ask them to look around and see if Jesus is there. Where was he? Ask him, where were you, Jesus, in this moment? How did you feel about being with me? And is there anything you want me to know about the story that I was dealing with today, my favorite part of that story, where I find myself in that story? So those are the questions that they're going to be listening and practicing listening. And you're not always going to hear from Jesus. This is why we call it practice. You're practicing so that when you need him the most, you're able to hear from him. So it's practice. At the end of that, which could be 8 minutes long or 5 minutes long of silence or 8 minutes of silence, depending on how trained your group is, at that point, you end and you begin a round of sharing. What did you sense, if anything? If you didn't sense anything, how was that for you? Was it hard? Was it frustrating? All right, because maybe someone's frustrated because they can't hear from God. Maybe they didn't hear anything, but they're still excited and expectant because they know they will if they keep practicing. So each person will respond differently. And you want the freedom for everyone, those who hear from God to be able to share what they're hearing, but those who don't yet to be able to share that. And again, if you get to a place where someone's really frustrated because they're not sensing God's presence, what do? You don't offer advice or fix their problem. You ask them what they want from the group. Would they like you to pray? Would they like the group to just listen? Would they like the group to give advice? Or would they like the group to give them some skill practice that they can practice on their own, or coaching in that? So again, we follow that pattern whenever there's a need in the group. We ask the person what they want and what they need. So after that round is done, then you have the closing round. And in the closing round, the question is, what do you take away from this group today? What was the most important thing that happened in this group for you tonight? In 1 minute or 2 minutes. Sometimes I haven't had enough time to do 2 minutes, so I've literally had 3 minutes to close a group, and I just say in one word. If you had one word, what did you see happen today? What was the most important thing? And some people say community, intimacy, joy. So in one word, they can do it if they have to. So if you don't have a lot of time to close, don't skip it. Just shorten it to one word. But if you have time for people to give their one sentence closure, great. And this time is really important because it's where you start to see how the Holy Spirit's working in everyone else in the group, through your participation even, and through everyone being in community. So it's a very important piece to not skip that closure time. So that's the flow. Again, it's check-in, the 3 questions. Which story did you like the most? Which one was the most important? Where do you find yourself in that story? Then appreciation and listening time, and closing time. That would be the flow of the small group that I would suggest if you're going to lead a small group with this book, because it creates the most spiritual and emotional intimacy that you'll need to be able to build joy in that group. So thank you so much for watching, and I pray that you will experience Jesus' presence with you individually and in your group setting. God bless you, and thanks for tuning in.